more magical messages in minutes. I'm Pastor Greg. It's good to see you. When I first became a believer and I first asked Jesus into my heart, I knew that I was supposed to pray, and I knew I was supposed to go to church when I could, and I knew that I was supposed to read my Bible. But I have to tell you, when I read my Bible, I didn't understand very much of it. Somebody told me that it was because I was a new believer. I was very, very young. I was like a baby Christian. Now, do you remember when you were a baby? Or maybe you have a baby at home who still has to drink milk for food. Their body's not ready to digest meats, vegetables yet. And so, what we do is we give them milk. Well, somebody told me to open my Bible, to find a couple of Bible stories that I liked, and to read them, and to read them, and to read them. And I would begin to understand what they were about. Of course, we all know stories like Jonah and the whale, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel in the lion's den. And those stories, for me at the time, were like milk. But as I began to read them again and again, I began to understand them more and more. And as my understanding grew, so did my knowledge of the Bible, so did things of Scripture. I wanted to just learn all that I could. And so I began to read even more. And the more I read, the more I knew. And the more I knew, the more I wanted to know. As my wisdom, as my knowledge about Scripture grew, I just tried to go after all things Jesus. I learned things from the Old Testament and the New Testament. Some of my favorite Bible stories became like life lessons. And it's because it started with milk, and it began to grow and grow and grow until my wisdom of Scripture got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I found something out. The more that I knew, the more that I wanted to know. And the more that I knew, the more I didn't know. As I got into the Word, I found out it was living and it was alive. And I would gain insights and knowledge reading the same thing again and again. But then something wild happened. At one point, I took all that wisdom and all that knowledge that I had. I took everything that I'd learned about Scripture, and I realized I needed to share it with others. I needed to give back to those that taught me about the things of God. I learned that I needed to share my wisdom, that I needed to share my insights, that I needed to teach about the things of the Bible. And so I began to teach Bible stories, the same stories that I started out with. And I found out the more that I read, the more that I learned, and the more that I taught, the greater my relationship with Jesus was. And so, I encourage you today, start off with a little bit of milk and learn all you can. And you too will go from milk to meat. This has been more magical messages in minutes. I'm Pastor Greg. Bye-bye, everybody. Cheers.